The 2025 college football season brings a ton of hype to the quarterback position. This is a group that has plenty of NFL talent, whether it's going to go to the 2026 NFL draft or an NFL draft after that. And two of the biggest names are Arch Manning and DJ Lagway. Now, they're just two of the quarterbacks that we'll talk about, and we'll look at a few other first-year starting quarterbacks this year too. But these two seem to have some of the most hype in the country, going to Texas and Florida respectively. These two are going to be really fun to watch for different reasons. And I think it's time to take a look at what should we have for expectations for them? What should their expectations be? When you compare the two, their frames could not be more different. DJ Lagway comes in at 6'3", 240 pounds. Arch is 6'4", 216, and you get hype for different reasons. DJ Lagway is a freak of nature. I think when you ask anybody in the media what they think of DJ Lagway, the first thing that they think about is this freak athlete who can make some special plays. Now, Arch is athletic in his own right, but he doesn't have the ceiling athletically that DJ does. And that being said, Arch is still going to be really fun to watch this year. When you look at what both of them did in 2024, both of them were in backup roles coming into the season. And both of them at some point had to step up and also played a big role later in the season as well. Now, the completion percentage is wildly different. We'll also dive into what they bring back in terms of talent. DJ obviously threw for more yards. He had more time as the starter when Graham Mertz went down. 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions is the area people want to see him improve. Arch had a 9-2 touchdown to interception ratio. But I don't think you can look at these and say that one of them is a definitive better passer than the other. Both of them are extremely talented, and both of them played different levels and different number of snaps, so it's hard to compare the two. But both of them are extremely talented. DJ can make all sorts of strange angle throws. Arch looks really comfortable in the pocket, even when he was thrust into the starting role. And even in some bigger games, when he wasn't making passes, running the football, this kid is, I think he's going to play some really good football. Just from a competitive standpoint, you can kind of see that he has that fire in him. And a lot of people like to make the joke about, the Manning trot and how he look, he's a Manning, so you expect certain things about his mannerisms. This kid is competitive, and, his family is competitive. Don't get that twisted. This is a group that really wants to win, and Arch is no different. He's very competitive, and he's in an offense that should suit him very well. He should thrive in this offense under Steve Sarkisian. You have plenty of talent coming back for him as well. When you look at what Ryan Wingo can do, you're really excited about him. Dante Moore is another player that could have a big year. Texas is not short on playmakers. That is something that is going to be really fun to watch if you are a Texas fan, because this offense, even though they lose quite a bit of talent, you still have plenty returning that should get you excited for the 2025 season. Florida also has playmakers. It's not as hyped as Texas has, but you have guys that can make big plays. Freshman Dallas Wilson is getting a ton of love from a lot of people. They think that he can have a big year, and there are some freshmen that could step up in a big way and make a major impact on college football. Trey Wilson, most people don't know his name, but he's going to have a really fun year with DJ. J. Michael Sturdivant comes in from the transfer portal, so you have guys that are capable of making plays that are going to be bigger names when the season finally progresses. It's just going to be, you got to get to that point. And DJ is one of them. DJ and Arch are probably two of the most hyped quarterbacks in college football this year for guys that haven't played a full year yet and haven't started a full year. But there's reason to believe, to be excited. There's plenty of reasons why they'll be successful. And it'll be fun to compare these two when the season's over. Maybe they'll both be Heisman Trophy contenders. We will see. But they're not the only two quarterbacks that we need to talk about. There are a few other first-year starting quarterbacks that are coming in with plenty of excitement. We'll start out on the West Coast, Dante Moore. Dante Moore was one of those quarterbacks that in the recruiting process, People were talking so highly of him. His recruiting process was highly followed, and a lot of people knew who he was coming into college. Did commit to Oregon before ultimately landing at UCLA. Now he's back at Oregon. Sat behind Dylan Gabriel. I think gained a ton of experience from Gabriel and what it takes to be a starting quarterback. And now he gets a chance to showcase his talent. 6'3", 210 pounds, has a good frame for the next level. Only threw 49 yards last year, but that's what, when Dylan Gabriel is your starter, you're going to get a guy who plays pretty much the entire year and doesn't ever really come out unless Oregon's up by a ton. And then at that point, Dante Moore would come in, and they didn't ask him to do a ton because he didn't really need to. Now he is thrust into the starting role, and it'll be fun to see what he can do. He's also going through a situation where you have a ton of talent. You have Dante Moore, an up-and-coming freshman that is ready to take a bigger step because Evan Stewart is out. I talked about Evan Stewart's injury and what that means for Dante Moore recently. Check that out if you have not already, but that is a guy who could step up in a big way. He has a really good tight end in Kenyon Sadiq. Another guy that's coming in with a ton of hype. And this is why I love the preseason, is we have so many guys that we're excited about, and Oregon has plenty of talent. And top of the fact that Will Stein is coming back to call plays, that's going to put Dante Moore in a successful position. Julian Sayin of Ohio State, another guy to keep an eye on, another guy that didn't play a ton, but his name was pretty hyped up last year. There was a lot of excitement with him coming from Alabama in the spring to maybe push for a starting spot. Ultimately, Will Howard obviously won the job, but when you get to throw to Jeremiah Smith, your job is probably going to be pretty easy. You also have guys like Carnell Tate that are going to return, so you have players that are going to make big plays. You have guys who are going to step up in a big way, and you don't have a shortage of talent. So for Dante Moore and Julian Sayin, who are kind of coming into similar situations, you don't have to be a hero right away. You just have to get comfortable with the offense, and it's almost better to make simple plays early and then find your rhythm, find your comfort zone, and then at the end of the year is when you can start unleashing some tougher throws that you feel confident in, because your confidence early in the season is going to be way more important than it is, when you ignore it for so long and have to utilize it in a big moment, in a big game. Both of these guys are going to be really fun, and we'll see how both of them perform in their new roles, in their new situations. The final two that we'll talk about here, and these guys are kind of off the radar in terms of hype compared to these other two, but definitely names you need to pay attention to. Damon Williams comes in, and he's the kind of the outlier in terms of size, 5'11", 192 pounds, had 944 yards last year, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception, also ran for 282 yards and 2 touchdowns. You look at what he did in the bowl game, that's a big reason for the excitement surrounding him. He has a ton of ability, a dual threat ability, and he can make big plays with both his arm and his legs. And it's a big reason why Washington's excited for their 2025 season. They think that he is going to be something special. You return guys like Denzel Boston to help him out. Jonah Coleman will be next to him in the backfield, so that's a good tandem to have for your rushing attack. I think that's going to be a really exciting group to watch, and there's some traction in terms of the hype growing, but compared to these other guys, a lot of people just don't know his name. Austin Simmons, a lot of people expect him to succeed in Ole Miss's offense. It's easy to see why. If you look what he did against Georgia last year, and you'll be excited. But this is kind of the theme with these guys. You have one game or one blip that makes you think, okay, if you play that way for an entire year, you're going to be special. Now, Arch Manning obviously had his moments. Same with DJ Lagway. Dante Moore and Julian Sayin, not as much, though it was kind of like the off-season excitement for them. But they still had those moments where we were talking about them quite a bit. Damon Williams had the bowl game. Austin Simmons had the game against Georgia. I mean, the fact that he thrived against Georgia tells you a lot about what he could do. And when you're playing in a Lane Kiffin offense, you're going to probably have success purely based off that. Jackson Dart obviously thrived in that role, but will Austin Simmons do the same? That's probably the biggest question surrounding his game. But there are plenty of exciting quarterbacks coming into college football that are taking on starting roles for the first time. These 6 guys are just 6 of the quarterbacks we're obviously keeping an eye on. There's plenty of talent that we'll need to pay attention to. But with these guys, there's plenty of excitement, there's plenty of hype, and it's just a question of which one of them, or all of them maybe, will live up to it.